Thank you for tuning in to All About the Girls, the podcast, where your host, me, Jenny Craig Brown, interviews incredible women to learn what powers them, what inspires them, and how they make our world a better place. Let's get to it. Well, welcome everybody to another awesome episode of All About the Girls, the podcast. I am joined this month with the lovely Janelle Golly. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So you are clinical director and physical therapist at the Valparaiso Ivy Rehab. Let's just dive right into this. Tell us a little bit about Ivy Rehab. I think from the little I know, you guys are a bit newer to this region, but very large and very experienced. So tell me a little bit about Ivy Rehab and then how you got intertwined with them and how you became who you are today.
So Ivy Rehab is actually, we have about 550 clinics nationwide. We're primarily located on the East Coast. However, we do have a set of clinics in the Midwest. So I believe we have about, I want to say, a little over 20 clinics in the Chicagoland region. We have a few up in Michigan, and then we actually have 3 right now in Northwest Indiana and 2 in Central Indiana.
Okay.
So I have the 3 Northwest Indiana clinics. Valparaiso is one of them. Yep. And then we have one in Winfield, which is by Lake of Four Seasons.
Got it.
And then we have one in Crown Point, and that one is located off of Delaware Street. So just those 3, and we have a Portage one coming either end of this year or beginning of next year, just depending on how things go.
Okay, exciting.
So as far as my experience and how I came to Ivy, I actually graduated from Northwestern PT school in 2019, so stayed, again, in the Midwest, wanted to stay close to family and friends. And
so you're from the region as well, and then
the region,
came back after college.
Yeah. So born and raised.
Yeah, not even too far away.
No, exactly. So Northwestern it's a good school, good location, a good experience. And then I just came back to Northwest Indiana. I always knew that I wanted to come back to my hometown of Valpo. And I didn't make it there right off the bat. I actually started working for a couple other places, a few other corporate chains. I met some really phenomenal therapists while I was working there. Learned a lot, but it just didn't feel like home. So I was kind of in a bit of a rut in about 2021. I liked my coworkers. I was very tolerable of my work atmosphere at the time, but something was missing. So I started doing a little bit more of a deep dive. And my current boss actually jokes around, says I'm a professional job hopper because my resume didn't look great. I was like, one job, I was like, it doesn't feel right. Went to the next job, was only there for about 6 months, and that's when I started researching. I was like, I need to find my forever home.
Because you often know that, I think, so quickly, and that's what I almost hope for if I'm ever seeing a resume that has a little bit of hopping on it. Technically, doesn't look good or whatever they say, but if you're trying to find your forever spot and you know it's not it, then don't waste time.
Exactly.
I love that.
And it was each goodbye I had from the previous employers was a bittersweet goodbye. It was I miss my former coworkers, but I knew something else needed to happen. So when I was doing research about other PT clinics in the area, I came across Ivy Rehab. I noticed that they only had 2 clinics in Northwest Indiana, and one of them was not located in Valpo. So I was like, this is my chance. So I started in the Winfield location and worked there for about a year. And I want to say within the first few months, I told them about my ultimate goal to open a clinic in my hometown.
Sure. And
sure enough, true to their word, about a year and 1 month later, we opened up the Valparaiso Ivy Rehab Clinic in December of 2022. And so we're approaching our 1-year anniversary, and it's just been phenomenal. So that's really how I got tied in with Ivy.
And it sounds like this is your forever home.
Yeah.
Like you found it.
Absolutely. So that's the gut feeling that I have. And we also have another therapist on staff. Her name is Beth Reisner. So she is an occupational therapist. We also like to call them like hand therapists. We use that term interchangeably. And she was also looking to come closer to her home. She's, I believe, in Knox with her family.
Sure.
So Valpo is significantly closer. She always wanted to be in Valpo, and same thing. So she came along with me and helped me kind of bring that clinic up as well in December.
Cool.
So we're both very, very happy with the location. I love Valpo. It's a very kind of come to full circle moment for me.
That's awesome. So then let's hop in the time machine, go backwards. You're born and raised in Valpo. Tell me about your schooling, growing up here in Valpo, your family. Talk a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so actually I'm the only person in my family born in Indiana. Everyone else was born in Chicago, like city of Chicago, not like random suburb of Chicago.
Like we're in Chicago.
Chicago. Oh yeah.
Okay.
And so my dad, his work brought him out here. He worked at one of the mills, and then I was the one that was the oddball out. I was born and raised in Valpo and graduated from Valpo High School in 2011. I stayed in Northwest Indiana, and I wanted to save money because I knew I was going to go on to grad school, and that was not going to be cheap. So I got my bachelor's degree in biology from Indiana University Northwest, which was probably one of the best decisions I made because the class sizes were smaller. I was able to interact more with my professors and become more than just a name on a roster.
Yeah, the hands-on and the involvement. Yeah.
It was great.
Okay,
so
that's lovely.
I always stayed in the region up until I had to leave for PT school. But, I mean, obviously I hopped right back as soon as I graduated in 2019. So I wasn't gone for very long. And sometimes people always ask me, like, you know, do you regret not traveling? There's a part of me that does. But, again, that gut feelings tell me that I'm in the right place.
Yeah, and you can travel on vacations. And
Exactly.
there's still so much time and so much opportunity there. Yeah. And now your kind of permanent place that you found in your community and your career, you have that. And that's sometimes a lifelong journey for people.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard to find that. And what are some things that stuck out to you as you grew up in Valpo that you think made you want to come back today? Like, what made you want to come back to Valpo?
I would just say seeing or remembering what Valpo was back, let's say, even when I was in middle school. So I'll just put it out there. Like, middle school was around the time, like, I call it the target area.
Sure.
That was, like, up and coming. So you used to just be farmland,
I remember.
right?
Yes, yeah.
So you see how much it has grown.
Yeah.
And I know that there's potential for even more growth. We're seeing it now. You know, Journeyman Distillery just opened up. And then there's, you know, more happenings going on in downtown Valpo. The population's booming. It's just... I don't know, I just see so much potential in it. If there was already potential before, but for me, just seeing the evolution of Valpo from my own lens, from being born and raised up until now, being able to be an active member of the community and give back, it's a beautiful change.
Yes, I completely agree. I grew up in the Port, and same thing, we used to go to Valpo for like shopping and things like that, and you're like, that was the big place, and then it's like, oh wait, the Target area comes in, and you're like, now we're getting really big. Like this is, So you mentioned that you were the only one in Indiana, so I'm guessing you're the youngest of the siblings. Is that okay?
Correct.
And how many siblings do you have?
So I have 3 siblings total, 2 half older siblings, and then 1 full sister, older sister. She is actually also a physical therapist working in Northwest Indiana too. Yep.
And is that just like happenstance? Did you guys talk about it growing up? That's what you wanted to do? How did that come full circle?
So even though I'm the younger sibling, I actually knew from when I was in high school that I wanted to be a PT. Okay. And my sister actually had dabbled. She knew she wanted to be in the healthcare field. It was kind of one of those things where you just needed to explore and see your options, and she fell in love with physical therapy as well. She knew that I wanted to get into it. That was not the driving factor. She did all of her training, and you just, again, gut feeling, right? So she felt like that was the right career move. She started at the Ivy Tech, got her associates as a physical therapist assistant, and then she decided about 3 years ago she wanted to go back to school and get her doctorate of physical therapy. So she held everything off, and for 3 years she went back into school, which is a huge decision to make when you're, especially like in your 30s. Yeah. And she did it. So she actually graduated with her own doctorate. I want to say it was December of last year, and she is working for a hospital network in Northwest Indiana right now.
Awesome.
So it's pretty cool.
That's probably fun at the dinner table. You guys are like having your own conversations. Everybody else is just like, what's happening?
It's nice to have someone to really relate to that. I don't always like bringing my work home with me. So my husband, I always talk about our day, but it's kind of nice. He's not in the healthcare field. He has his own profession that's different from that. Sure. And I love that because it's different overall. But my sister, if I ever am able to, talk about something that was a little bit stressful, she can relate.
Because she'll know the details of what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, she has the empathy too behind it. With patient care, dealing with, any other coworkers. There's a lot of, we're in different settings, but there's a lot of that emotional, mental overlap with our professions. So
definitely.
It's great.
And how close is your family? Like siblings, all really close, hang out all the time?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely.
I love this. Okay.
I would say my oldest sister, she's my half sister, she lives in actually Nevada right now with her family. So she has 4 kids of her own, so she's very busy over there. And all the kids are doing their own thing. And then I have a half brother who still lives in Illinois, closer to like my grandparents and things like that. Sure. And then my sister, like I said, she was actually born in Chicago, but obviously, my parents moved here. Yeah. She was unfortunately
Still
brought
around.
back.
Yeah.
So she grew up in Valpo, also graduated from Valpo High School in 2008.
Okay.
She also went to IU Northwest and got her bachelor's degree, and then onwards over to physical therapy. But
Okay.
I'm very close with her. She's only about 2 to 3 years older than I am.
Okay.
And I would say that growing up, we weren't the closest because that age gap was just big enough where she was, when I was in elementary school, she was a teenager now.
Yeah.
When I was in middle school, she was in high school.
Those age gaps seem
Yes.
so much more extreme when you're younger, where as you get older, it just matters less.
It doesn't matter even at all now. She's, I'm very close with her. We're very close with our parents.
That.
So I would say that at least once a week we're going over to my parents' house, my husband obviously included, and we're playing cards or having dinner or we're watching the Bears game. So it's very, I know not a lot of people have that.
Yep.
And I'm very good now about living in the moment and understanding what I have and appreciating it.
Yep. It's really important. I think family connections like that are just, for a lot of people, it's chosen family only, right? They don't have a lot of connections with any kind of regular family. That is a great thing to have, and I love that you see the value of it too.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, you said you mentioned your husband. Tell me a little bit about your husband, your home life.
So he's also originally from Valpo.
Okay, good. I love these region guys. This is perfect. You guys are all from right here.
So he graduated from Valpo High in 2006.
Okay.
I did not know him in school, even though we shared a lot of the same schools itself. Like we went to TJ Middle School, different times. Valpo High, different times.
Okay.
He went to college. He has a degree in, I want to say, construction management. However, I believe was in that profession for a little bit. This was before I even started dating him. And then he got offered a job at, it was ArcelorMittal at the time, and now it's Cleveland Cliffs, so over in Burns Harbor.
Yep.
He's been there about 10 years now. So
Great.
I would say that he is now taking advantage of more career opportunities, like trying to become a mechanic. They offer a lot of great benefits there. And so it's a great, reliable job. Perfect benefits. I mean, anyone who's looking for a job with my patients, I even just like, the mill's hiring. Like it's a
They're almost always
career.
hiring. They always have great. Yeah, I just learned that they have their own fire department, which I'm certain most people are like, duh, Jenny. It seems so obvious when I learned it, but then I was like, I guess I never really thought about it. But it's the same thing. You could be a full-time fireman for just the mill. I met with a woman that works there, and she was fantastic, but also just all the things she had to say about the team that works there is the same thing. Like the firefighters who will fight a fire on their way to work and still come to work because somebody needed help on the road or someone was injured and they needed a first responder or whatever it is. And those types of people matter a lot. So it seems like a great place.
Yeah, he's absolutely great. We've been married now for about 4 years. We just celebrated our 4-year anniversary.
Okay.
So we got married in October 2019.
And when did you meet? How did you meet?
So we
did
met.
You know each other in school?
We did not. No.
Okay.
So this was actually before I was just finishing up my undergrad, and I took a gap year off.
Okay.
And I already knew which school I wanted to go to for PT school, and so I was saving up money. I was working as a rehab tech in an outpatient facility in a physical therapy clinic, and we met through mutual friends. We met at a party, and we knew of each other before that, but never talked. So the party's really what kickstarted it, and we just started dating. And it was like, yeah, by the way, I'm leaving in 3 months for school. And he was great. He was very patient, understanding, and I feel like having that time away from each other to still be in a relationship, but also understand how we can survive long distance. Really made it stronger.
And grow on your own as an individual in your own setting, but then have that other person. I love that.
Yeah, but he was very patient. That's a lot to ask of someone right off the bat.
Yeah.
And essentially get very real within the first, couple months of a relationship. And it was kind of like, well, since I was young, I knew I wanted to be in PT school. I knew I wanted to be a physical therapist, and I wasn't going to budge on that. And he was understanding that, especially if marriage was going to be in the picture, I didn't want to plan a wedding while I was in school. Yeah. Or get married while I was in school. So again, he, bit the bullet, and we're been together ever since, essentially.
I love it. And you mentioned you knew at a very young age that you wanted to be in PT. I think it's almost rare nowadays, especially, to find someone doing what they went to college for, more or less doing what they knew they wanted to do when they were really, really young. Yeah. What built that in you? How did you know you wanted to do that so young? And then how did it happen that you went through it? I mean, so often it just changes along the way for some reason. Yours didn't. Like, what created such a big kind of motivation for that career?
Yeah, so while I was in high school, I did sports ever since I was young. So my main sports were basketball, cross country, and track. and of course had my own fair share of injuries. So
Right.
honestly, actually before, I want to say junior year of high school, like right before junior year of high school, up until that point, I planned on going into the Army. I saw a lot
Okay.
of value in it. I respect
Sure.
the troops. And I also just figured, if I didn't know what I wanted in school, then I'd be able to do a great service to my country, but then also be able to reap some of the benefits they have for continuing education
Yeah.
and higher education at that.
Great.
Well, then, I had my fair share of injuries from my sports and had to go through PT. And
Okay.
so I really attribute it to the multitude or different types of therapists that I was seen by, because they just treated me like a person, and they just made me really understand my
Yeah.
injury. And PT has a way of, when you're at your most vulnerable, like your most, I guess, what you feel is your weakest point, it gives you the opportunity to change that, right? It gives treatment
Yeah.
back into the patient's hands, essentially.
You can control it a little bit,
Yeah.
because in my, of course, very limited experience with PT, it's about what you do, not necessarily what they have you do, but what you actually
Right.
end up doing later and during that appointment, but also the 3 days after.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got to do all your work, and you got to do your exercises, and you
Agreed.
got to do the repeats and all of that stuff. So I think it does put the control back in them to some extent, and especially when you're injured, you feel like you lose a lot of that.
Agree. Yeah, so for me, being an athlete and not being able to do my sport, I'm seeing it now with my current athletes that I treat.
Yeah.
It's taking a big part of who you are away.
Yeah.
And it's a different type of training. We're, as athletes, they're used to training to become the best athlete in their sport, for themselves,
Best of the best.
on their
Yeah.
team. And then when they're injured, all they do, or all they feel like they're doing, is sitting back and watching the rest of their colleagues or their teammates try and strive for their best while they're sitting, on a
They're
treatment
watching
table.
them do their best, and they
Exactly.
can't do theirs.
And so
it gives
being
them some
able
of
to
that.
overcome that emotional and mental hurdle was something that my therapist back in the day helped me.
Okay.
And I had never had anyone do that before. I had a great team of physicians. I had, the best athletic trainer at Valpo High, and she was phenomenal. It was just,
Yeah.
I don't know, the way the physical therapists talked to me and the way that they made me feel valued in my rehab process is what stuck out. And that's when I kind of went home one day and I was like, I want to be a physical therapist. So looked it up,
So
looked
cool.
up the path, and
And you're probably still in high school at this point. And
I
you
was,
knew.
yeah. I was
okay.
about 16 years old.
Okay.
And that's really when I started having issues with my legs and wasn't able to, run in track as well, wasn't able to run cross country, had to take the freshman season out. And then for basketball, it was just like really rough on my knees. So it was crazy too, because I played basketball since I was maybe 5 years old, running competitively since I was about 8. And so that, when you put it in around a whole time frame between the age of 5, 8, until 16, so
Yeah.
much of your life, over half of your life, has been dominated by sports and athletics. And so when you're all of a sudden having to come to an abrupt halt, you really lose that sense of self.
Yeah.
So to have
But
someone
why
else
you would
find it,
makes
I was
sense.
amazed.
Yeah. And it's like, well, of course, you've been running for 10 years almost by this point. You're in high school, or you've been playing basketball for 10 years. And so it makes sense why you might have some injuries there, but it still affects you. It still hits you pretty hard. Yeah.
It does.
That makes a ton of sense. And I love, for me, of course, healthcare entities are wonderful, and I love all of them. But I think for me, I'm always looking for, what can I do that's not a pill or surgery? And I think that's, for me, PT just always offers, at least initially or even afterwards as a healing mechanism, that more holistic way to get proper. And I've only had 2 injuries in my whole life that needed any sort of PT, thankfully. But I was so afraid. I hurt my back, and I was so afraid that they were going to try to get me to have back surgery at 30 years old. And I just knew that was not my route. But I was what else do? You have to listen to healthcare providers. And so I went to a PT person, and I absolutely loved that of it. Is, number one, the better I do and the more work I put in, the better the outcome. And it's not stabbing me with needles. There's no, you're not trying to cut me open. And it's just such a holistic vibe for me that's what I really liked. Is that true? And is that what you see often?
It is. So I would say that another added benefit for PT is, it's not just about, say someone has been trying to use, they found that certain prescription medication has helped with their symptoms, and they're using it responsibly, right? But it's just not sticking. There's no long-term carryover.
It's not going away. Yeah.
There still are some cases where they do need to be on some kind of like a prescription medication, maybe for short term.
Sure.
And they have the best physician out there that's going to help wean them off, but they just need something else to almost act like a catalyst to try to get them to their goals. And PT can be that goal, right? Because let's say the medication they're on takes the pain away. Well, what caused that pain to begin with? If they're not a surgical candidate, then they're going to be looking more at conservative routes.
Okay.
That being PT. And that's really, we have to have that delicate dance with being able to supplement that pharmaceutical intervention with physical therapy. So it's not just about, getting them on the table and then just running them through exercises, right? I have to first establish that trust with the patient, number one, and also find what, I guess, is the best approach for them. What's going to make them buy in? So, I have a gentleman who maybe wants to get back to playing racquetball. I'm going to try to still do maybe, quote, boring stretches with him that are going to benefit him for his dynamic warm-up or cool down.
Sure.
But you still also have to find a way to put in exercises that simulate that functional outcome they want to see. Their sport,
smart.
their hobby, whatever. And then that's going to make them more enthusiastic to actually attend therapy instead of just being like, I can just do this on my own. You really, you have to prove to yourself every single time that patient walks through your door that what you're doing is to their fullest benefit and that you're trying to get them to see the value in it.
I love that. Well said. That's absolutely wonderful. And you're right. It's just that independence that it can give you, and just you feel so much, because it's bad when you're injured, whether you just had surgery, you just injured in general, it's a scary thing.
It is.
And if it doesn't matter, young or old, maybe it's worse when you're young, maybe you'll recoup better, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's just really scary.
It is, especially people, let's say they've never really had a true injury that lingers for a long time until they're in, let's say, their later 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond. It becomes even scarier that your body, you've never had to fight this with your body, right? Your body's been able to bounce back. And then now it's like, what the heck? Maybe my back would be sore for a day or two, and now it's lingering for weeks.
Yeah.
What the heck do I do? And like you said, people will get afraid that their physician is going to either give them pills or surgery. And I would like to say that from my experience with some of the physicians in Northwest Indiana, they are becoming more in tune with seeking those conservative options. And they do see the value in trying to avoid any sort of crazy procedures when they don't have to. And I think they also see the mental and emotional benefit that PT has as well in trying to get them back to their active selves in the safest way possible.
Yes, I completely agree. They want to go play their pickleball.
Yep.
Dang it.
Oh, yes.
Do you play pickleball at all?
I don't, but I have patients to arrange their entire year-long schedule around pickleball. No joke.
I love it. So I've just started. I've played a couple times. I think it's fun. I just like games. Like, honestly, volleyball, pickleball, I don't really care. It's just fun to have a group of people getting out and doing something. So for me, it's really fun. I've got some competitive friends. But yeah. Okay, so as you know, this podcast is called All About the Girls. So let me ask you about some of the women in your life. Tell me about some women that have really impacted you through your years and made you who you are today.
I would say that, my mother is definitely one. So beyond the mold of, actually, when we moved here to Indiana, the original plan was for her to be like a stay-at-home mom.
Sure.
Which I respect the most out of stay-at-home moms. That is not an easy job. It is 24/7. There's no off
There's
switch.
never a day off. It's
Ever.
always you. You're always the main one. I could never do it. Absolutely want nothing to do with it.
Yes. So my mom, that was the original plan.
I love those people.
And then she was like, no, I want, this is a new area. I want to, how am I supposed to meet new people and have social connections if I'm constantly with my kids? No offense.
But so smart to be thinking of herself in that moment too. She needs that.
So she ended up even, I would say stretching herself thin, but I would never have known at the time because she handled it so well. She ended up, getting a part-time job that was able to work opposite of my dad. So that way they didn't have to, because they didn't have family out here. There was just them.
Right.
And childcare is very expensive. I don't need to tell anyone else that.
Right.
Especially with prices going up right now. So what they did was, instead of my mom just coming home and getting the house ready, she was like, I found this part-time job. It works opposite because my dad works swing shift. And so for the first, I want to say maybe 7 years or up to 10 years of their marriage, they were on opposite shifts. They didn't see each other. And that's because my mom wanted to be, a working mother. And that's not an easy choice, in my opinion, because she didn't get to see my dad as often. She constantly her schedule had to be the one that had to be flexible to accommodate mine and my sister's. We had doctor's appointments, emergency appointments. Yeah,
she's almost doing
sports.
The full-time stay-at-home mom while she works.
Exactly.
And it's just, you almost take on both all the time.
Yeah, so that was, I commended her for that. I respected it so much because that's a huge decision. And she saw immediately that she was like, this is a new area. I don't know anyone. And the only way I'm going to meet people is by getting out there. And she just immediately did it. Like, absolutely no hesitation. My dad was great in supporting her decision with that.
That's fantastic.
And then kind of flip side, it's actually my mom's sister. Her name's Gail. She is also someone else I look up to a lot. She is an absolute beast when it comes to anything athletic. So she ran 5 of the world marathons. So I believe there's 6 now. Japan just got added. She actually
what's a world marathon? I don't know what that means.
Like Chicago Marathon, New York, Boston. And then they have, I think it's Berlin and then London. Those are the 5. And then, so she's done all those, completed it, and then they added Japan to the list too.
And now she's like, I gotta do this. Yeah.
She's gonna do it. I have faith that she will. And then she does, triathlons. She's climbs mountains. She climbed Mount Rainier like a couple of years ago. Like, she's just absolutely nonstop go. Still works. She raised 3 kids. She's just absolutely determined. Okay. So I don't think I've ever seen that woman, sit. She's just always moving. So I really admire her absolute zest for life, her determination and drive. It's just second to none. So I'm very, very fortunate to have her in my life too.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. I didn't even know that was a thing. So it's fantastic. And that, I guess, makes me want to ask you too, you were in a ton of sports growing up. What are you doing? Do you do any running now? Do you do any sports now? What are your activities that you still like to do now?
Yeah, so my husband and I, we both, we do strength training together. I won't say together at the same time, but that's something that we both do for our primary workouts. And then I actually recently, I want to say it was this past March, for Ringing in Spring.
Oh, I think we talked briefly about this. Yeah. Yes, when we first met.
That was oddly enough, shame on me, I've lived in Valpo 30 years. It's the first one I've ever done.
Okay. Right? It's such a good race.
It was good. It was very cold this year, but it was well put together. I mean, they did great. So I did that with my sister. My sister got me into running because she runs too. And I hadn't run in forever. I just kind of dropped off, didn't really run when I was in PT school because I was so busy, and I just focused on the weights, which was still a really good outlet. Yeah. And I was very taken aback by how much I missed it after Ring in Spring. So I do run. It's definitely not the same mileage I used to. And that's the hardest part for me to accept, is to slow myself down. And that some days I'm just going to have to run shorter mileage and be happy with that.
Whether it be time, injury, whatever. It's just you want to...
I actually have to practice what I preach to my patients, and it's very humbling, to say the least.
I bet it is.
I still do a lot of strength training, at least 5 days a week, and I'm trying to run at least 3 days a week. I think the furthest I run right now is 3 miles, which I should be proud of myself, because a year ago I wasn't running at all. Exactly. And now I am running, so I have to look at a big picture. But my ultimate goal, I would love to run a marathon. And when that will be, I'm not quite certain. A lot of people are telling me, I think you could register for the lottery for the Chicago Marathon. That might have passed, but I was like, I don't think I commit to that just yet. It'll get there. That is a big goal of mine, though. Just to complete a marathon.
Okay. I think we've talked about this on the podcast before. We've had kind of myriad of, some have done marathons, some have done several, some have no desire to run ever. I'm probably somewhere in the middle there. I've done several half marathons, but a full is really scary. I mean, that's 26.2. That means a lot. Miles. Yes. I mean, that's a lot. Yeah. I recently did a run for Julie West, friend of the pod. She's been a speaker for All About the Girls, the event. And she has an event for her foundation, Play for Jake, in LaPorte. Okay. And her son, tragic story, her son had an undiagnosed heart condition. He was playing football. He fell on the field. He went into AFib, and they didn't have the paddles.
Yeah.
They were locked in the coach's office. And so her whole foundation's base is to get some laws passed to make them mandatory and to have them on the field in police cars, in fire equipment, all of that stuff. And she's doing a really great job with it. One of the things she does is a run. And it's around Pine Lake in LaPorte. So I thought, well, this is a great way to support her to get back into, it'll force me to get back into a little more distance, because I was the same, well, I was probably even lesser. I was doing 2 miles at max 3, but that was even pretty rare. So I signed up for the 10K, and then I found out the same thing, that's 6.2 miles for anyone that doesn't know that, and then quickly learned that it was 6.7 miles, so it was actually a little longer.
Right.
And I was, because you can't make the lake smaller, right? If you're running around the lake. So it was 2 laps around the lake, and I was so nervous. And then, of course, that day it's raining and it's crazy outside. And I take off, and I mean, I could still see the start line behind me, and I roll my ankle, and I'm so annoyed, but I can't. It's for Julie, and I can't stop. So I just do it with a sprained ankle. I'm like, and I ended up, time was fine. I think most people did the 5K. I think if they didn't sign up for the 5K, they changed it to the 5K when it was raining. And I did the 10K, and I was like, I'm sticking it out. Yeah. I may have been the last person to finish that race because I did the 10K instead of the 5. But I was like, listen, it's done. Yeah, I'm fine. And I did it. And same thing. I felt good getting back into it. And I was so surprised because I thought, this is going to hurt.
Yeah.
Like, I'm old. This is going to hurt. But it was great. And I think running is just same thing for me. For a long time, it was a big passion of mine. Went from that to much lower of a passion. And then getting back into it's almost fun. Yeah.
I think for me, I always think about, man, I really wish I would have had the knowledge I have now about running, mechanics, everything back when I was in high school, because back when I was in high school, it was like, get out and run as fast as you can, right?
Yes.
And just keep running.
Nothing about how you do it.
No, it's like, running's not hard. You just start fast, run fast in the middle, and then you end fast. Like, no brainer. But for me, I look back on, my running mechanics. I had shin splints a lot of shin splints, and they hurt. And I think my junior year, I actually had probably about 3 different stress fractures, and I knew what they were, so I actually, shame on me to not go get them diagnosed, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to run.
No one else do that. Don't listen.
Don't do that. And so I now understand, like, what caused it. Okay. I understand how best to manage it, and, I know how to modify my running and my running schedule so much better to accommodate my body, because I don't look like the typical distance runner. I was probably like the biggest girl on the team back in high school.
Because are you supposed to be short?
And normally when you think distance runners, you think of they're typically have like a skinnier build for the most part. A lot of times it's really, your mileage is so up there. I mean, you're burning so many calories. The demand is so high. Not to say that no other sport or any type of running sport is different, but I would say that that's generally the build, Okay. And that's what you see. So for me, I had like a basketball type of body. I remember going into a couple different doctor's appointments, and I'd be coming in for a running injury, and they were like, oh, you're a runner? Like, I would have thought you were a basketball player. And I'm like, well, I am, but actually between the two, running was always my favorite.
Interesting.
And so it was always a little disheartening for me to be told that I always looked like that I didn't look like my sport, because it made me feel almost like I shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, and this thing that you associate with. Right,
and it was by no means like causing me any like mental distress, but it just, a little part of me in the back was like, oh man, like, did I make the right choice? Should I be a sprinter? Should I just always stick with basketball? But no, I'm really glad that I stuck it out. And now I know exactly what to do to try to adjust my running schedule, my running form, my recovery patterns, to make sure that I'm not getting injured again. And just to listen to my body. That's the hardest part right now for me.
I bet. You just want to go full out all the time.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I hope you get the full marathon, but
me too.
Do it when it's right. I think that makes the most sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you've talked a little bit about knowing what you wanted to do at such a young age, wanting to stay in Valpo. So maybe this is a moot question, but when you began your career, did you think that it would be what it is today? Because it almost sounds like, yes, spot on, but maybe that's not what you thought, and it was luck, or it was something that you didn't expect.
So I would say that where I am now was always a goal of mine. I don't think I thought it would happen this fast.
Yeah.
I'm only about 4 years out of PT school. I've learned a lot, but still have a lot to go, is what I like to tell my coworkers as well. And for me, I've always been in outpatient physical therapy.
Okay.
I actually dabbled a little bit with hospital-based PT. I do love that environment, but outpatient's just where it's at for me. And so I worked in two other companies before this, and I take the good with the bad with each of those. I take, the good, positive learning experiences I've had either from patients, my managers, my coworkers, and I've brought that with me to Ivy.
Good,
I've
yes.
also taken different things that I've seen that were maybe negative for my work environment, whether it was me doing it unknowingly, someone else doing it. And again, you just learn from it and you build and you grow. So for me, again, when I came to Ivy, I was thinking like, all right, 5-year plan, like down the road, they'll want to open a clinic in Valpo. Why wouldn't they, right? And they were like, oh no, we're actually like looking at that area right now. I was like, oh, well, anyway.
And then even then you could say, okay, cool, but I'll believe it when I see it. But then it happens like 1 year later.
Yeah, so
how amazing.
That's one thing that I do, love about Ivy. It's just really the people with Ivy, and that's what I've come to accept is that regardless of where I would have been, it's who I'm with right now. This could be a different name of a company, but my coworkers, my bosses, they're just absolutely phenomenal, and they have helped me. They've believed in me when I maybe didn't believe in myself as much to get me to where I am today. And like I said, they made true on their word within a year, and I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for them. I think that they actually lit the fire under me and pushed me to accept this position because I told them about it, and they're like, well, we're looking in this area where we want to kind of plant the seed now and open in maybe about a year from when I was like getting hired on. And I was like, man, if I don't accept, I'm really going to kick myself in the butt.
Yeah.
And so I said yes. My mentor was great every step of the way. I feel like I'm supported, and it's like I said, it's the people. And one of the biggest like shockers that I had coming into this company was right off the bat, my boss was like, oh, by the way, we need like a bio card. And I was like, what? Like, what's going on? He goes, yeah, just like, professional headshot. And then, he showed me a few of the other coworkers' bio cards, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then some of your specialties. And I thought that was amazing because the last 2 places I went to were also corporate chain, PT clinics.
Sure.
And although, great coworkers, and I learned a lot from my managers, no one asked me that. No one asked any of us that. And so my boss was like...
You're more of a number, it probably feels like.
In a way, it was. I don't think I realized that until I came to Ivy. And when my boss asked me that, he goes, we believe in marketing to physicians and local networks. We market people, not just the company.
Yeah.
People are going to come to Ivy because of you. They're not going to come to you solely because of Ivy. You know what I mean? Like, it's the person that makes the company.
Exactly. And being someone that's been in the region and you have family and connections and ties here, they really are going to do that.
Yep. And so, like, my boss, he's from Crown Point, both him and his wife, so he is primarily treating out in the Crown Point region.
Sure.
And so I've seen the connections he has, and it's very cool because I've been able to mirror that in Valpo. Previous teachers I've had, coaches, and then previous friends, neighbors are coming to get treatment. And it's nice to be able to bond over the past memories that we've had, but then also they see me now as an adult in my own profession. And I don't know, again, that evolutionary kind of timeline that we're seeing here is just like coming to life before my eyes.
I absolutely love that. And you mentioned that you that there were things that you didn't love and you wanted to look at whether it was you or them or whatever and change that. And that's a humble perspective. I think that's a really intelligent perspective because you can fix almost anything in your life, but you have to be willing to look at you and all of that surrounding. It could be someone else, and hopefully it's always not you, right? We always never want it to be ourselves. But maybe that's a personality trait or something that about yourself that you want to work on. But I think you do have to take the time to look at that, and that's not always fun. It's almost never fun, and it's hard. It's hard to take a look in the mirror and go, what do I not like about this place or these people or this company or how they run or whatever little piece isn't your favorite, and how am I contributing to that? Or if I'm not, great, but if I am contributing to the part I don't like, I want to fix it. And I think that's hard.
Oh, it was. And of course, being a new grad, and then a new grad going into a pandemic on top of that.
I can't even imagine.
I don't think any of us really came out of that the same in any profession, not just healthcare.
You're absolutely correct.
And there are definitely parts that I look back and I never ever want to bash, my old coworkers. I love them so much.
Sure.
And I really do just try to look at it as, what did I do in that situation? How did I respond to this particular conflict? And I'm really just analyzing myself, because in the end, you control you. You control your controllables. And that's what I want to take moving forward, is just make myself a better person, both for my patients and my coworkers.
Yeah, because I just read something the other day, and it's like a corny, cheesy saying, and I don't even remember what it was, but the premise was, and no matter what, you can respond well, and you can be kind to everyone, and you can be the person that you want to be, no matter how other people react to that or react before that. And I think that's the thing. Whether they deserve it or not, it doesn't matter. Whether they accept it or not also does not matter. How you react to humans and how you treat other people is solely based on you and your personality. Yeah. And I think, and who you are as a person. And I think that's a big deal, but it's hard to accept that too.
It is. So that is a big part of being in the healthcare field, not just as a physical therapist, because there are going to be so many times where a patient comes in and they're distraught about something. Could be their pain, what they're seeing you for, but it could also be their pain on top of something else in their personal life that, they're not going to divulge with you, and they don't have to. But if they come in with, some kind of grief or strife, or you feel like there's an edge to their voice, the biggest thing that I've learned is don't take it personally. There's something else hiding underneath it.
They're
and if they decide
exactly, whatever it is.
So you just can't take it personally. And going back to actually my Valpo high school days, there's this, it's called the Natural Helpers Retreat at Valpo High School. So there's just a group of juniors and seniors that go in the fall and then in the spring. And I went, I believe it was the fall of my senior year. So the way you get picked, it was very odd. I actually didn't know that this was a thing until I got picked.
I was going to say, let's shout this out for other people, because they might not know either, and their kids might be involved somehow.
I was like, so you are given a piece of paper and you write down the name of 3 individuals that you can confide in and you trust implicitly. And I don't know, they count up how many votes you got, and then you get selected. And
so if you were basically that person for more than one person,
yes,
you
I don't
can
know
potentially
what the number
get
was.
chosen. Yeah.
So then you go for about 2 days, and I won't dive into the details because it is supposed to be I don't know, they treat it like top secret, but essentially the premise is I started seeing the world in a different lens after that. I really started to see people and not, I saw beyond more than just myself. So if someone was acting a different way towards me, I didn't take it personally. I had to try to hold back any sort of anger I might have about how they're treating me, and start thinking there might be something else going on in their life that I don't know about. And it's not them being mad at me and it's personal against me. They're just upset. So I carry that into my current treatment model. And, you're dealing with people that are in pain all the time.
Yeah.
That are probably not just dealing with physical pain, mental, emotional pain. You don't know what their work life is like. You don't know what their home life is like. And there are certain days where they just hit their tipping point, and you just happen to be in the line of fire, and you just need to take a step back, understand it's not you that they're mad at, and that you have to have those professional or personal skills to diffuse a situation.
Yes.
And that's why I tell patients that, you can have what we like to say alphabet soup after your name, all these beautiful credentials, which is still important. But if you can't get someone to trust you or feel comfortable being treated by you, they're going to leave and they're going to go somewhere else.
Yes,
so personal skills are
agree.
number one.
Yeah, they need to be comfortable with you, and that takes a lot, and it's different for every person, which is really hard probably to figure out and kind of work through.
Yeah.
But that's part of the gig, I think.
It is.
Anybody that works with any human, kind of in any human capacity, needs to be able to read them, understand them, adjust with them along the way, and those people will be happier by the end. Okay, that's fantastic. So tell me about any significant obstacles or adversity that you've had to overcome in your life. Is there anything that sticks out to you as those kind of formative things that were tough?
I would say for me, it's still going to stick in my professional realm as far as an obstacle. And that would be overcoming pandemic in my first year of treating.
Because you graduated, you said, in 2019?
Yeah. So I started working August of 2019. So I guess my obstacle isn't much different than a lot of other people's, but I would say that within the first year, I know I had all these goals that I wanted to, take different classes and courses to enhance my clinical tool set, and all that was shut down. I wanted to try to work on my relationship building with referral sources. Shut down. You couldn't go into the hospital
you
centers.
can't pop by and bring cupcakes or anything fun or introduce yourself or anything.
Absolutely not. And so it was really just like, all right, we have to try to make do with what little we have, and work with my coworkers to try to make the best of an absolutely awful situation. So that was huge. That was a big obstacle, but I think that my fellow coworkers helped me through that, because when you really look at it, you're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
And they're going through the same exact
absolutely
thing.
Correct. Yeah. And now you can lean on one another, hopefully, support one another, hopefully, and then candidly commiserate occasionally together too of, this is insane. Because what you guys went through, I was really lucky to be here already. Obviously, all of the nerves of, being in an advertising and a media company during a pandemic. But when you're caring for patients and you can't care for them, it's so scary. Right. And then you can care for them, but what's going to happen is so scary. And there's so many things with that of your own protection, but also wanting to do your job and wanting to be a career success and all of those things. So that's got to be, that's really scary.
It was definitely one of those. Especially, I feel like a lot of new grads have this, I don't want to call it like an existential crisis, but we've been students up until like our midterm, early to mid 20s. Then finally you graduate and you're thrown out to the workforce. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is a whole new environment. I'm used to always being a student. And to make that transition into an independent clinician, it's a shell-shocking moment, to say the least.
Yeah, and it's so shocking, I would assume, in an average day, but now dealing with it during a pandemic, it's a whole new world, and you don't have anyone to look to. Right. There's not like your, mentor that you can say, how did you deal with this? Because no one has. Right. I think anybody that graduated like end of 2019 or just anywhere in 2019 into 2020 just had it just weird and hard. We've hired a couple people that graduated high school in like at the December semester, the end of the year. And then we hired them that spring, and it was weird for them doing an orientation over Zoom. Like, same thing. We pride ourselves on being a company that has a close team that knows one another and works together closely, and we couldn't do that. And so you miss this kind of key piece of who you are as a company. And I think for you guys, as a physical therapist, your whole job is caring for others. And now you're concerned about your own health, but also still trying to care for others, and it's just a weird, wonky,
Yeah, it was just weird. I was in my first year of training, and I'm just like, is this, just didn't know if it was going to stop, if it was going to change, and you start thinking, do I need to change my career choice? How would I even do that now? Because everything's shut down.
And even making the change is going to be really difficult, so you don't even want to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Kudos to you guys. And like I said, anyone that did that, it's got to be really tough. So tell me a little bit about, what do you guys do for fun? Do you guys go frequent a couple restaurants? You guys got some favorites? What do you love about Valpo now? Where do you guys hit up?
So we're doing like an Ivy Rehab, like our Christmas kind of like coworker sort of holiday gathering, and me and the girls at the clinic were actually talking about this, and we're like, we really want to like reserve stacks.
Okay.
Really bad. I know that's at a point now, it sounds cliche, but hey, they have good food. They have great service. It's such a great
ambiance. You're right. Absolutely. I don't think that's at all cliche. I think it's just, and it's hard, right? Yeah. Like probably for you guys to get together is tough already.
It is. Yeah. So we have, our hand therapist, Beth. She has 3 little ones. My other therapist, her name is Trisha. So she's actually pregnant with her first baby girl right now. And then we have our front office coordinator. Her name is Chrissy. So she'd be down to hang out with me outside of work. Absolutely. But we want also everyone from all the clinics to get together as well, because we are the Northwest Indiana region, right? Mm-hmm. There's only 3 clinics right now. We're a tight-knit group, and we really do have each other's backs. So to bring everyone together is the big name of the game. We should try this probably next year. I want to do like like the popcorn panic all together.
Oh, that's
or like
a
go
great
to the
idea.
popcorn
Yes,
festival.
yes.
That would be great too.
That would be fun. You guys could get a float in the parade and walk and pass
Just do
out.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exact stress balls or something.
Even if it's just like walking all together with
I
like
think
shirts
so.
or anything like that, just to show the camaraderie that we have for the
Yeah.
region. Because I know that the popcorn festival is, it's located in Valparaiso, so it's not just about the Valparaiso clinic. You look at the popcorn festival as really Northwest Indiana, the region.
There's so many. I didn't realize how big it was. Obviously, we've covered it every year I've been here and every year we've existed, but I had no idea how many people influx for that. It's crazy the amount of humans that come in for that festival. And you're right, it's region wide for sure, maybe even beyond there. So it's a great way to kind of get your name out there, and that's good.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Stax is a definite favorite. I think that's it's a classy. I love that place for so many reasons, because you can have any setting you want, right? Like you can have the calm and quiet downstairs, you can have the bar setting downstairs, you can have the big bar setting upstairs. Yep. Now they've got the igloos, I think, out, so you can do that. Like, it's a great, and the same thing, great community ties here in Valpo, and that's awesome.
Yeah,
Great.
so I know that also we do, because my boss, again, he went to Crown Point High School, he played football for Crown Point, and we like to have like the rivalry between Valparaiso High School and like Crown Point High School, and we face off. So we like to just try to make that fun, kind of like crosstown rivalry sort of thing. I was actually on vacation, so it's not like we could make a bet or anything like that, like losers wear the other team's attire, anything along those lines. But we do like to make it fun and try to actually take some kind of involvement within different things that are going on, not just in Valpo, but also just Northwest Indiana, whether it be Crown Point or, Portage, when we do open the Portage clinic. So just trying to be involved in the community, because you want people, when they come to you, to not just see like you want to be like, oh yeah, I saw you at this particular event or this event, and having that familiarity is going to be key.
I love that. So this is a tough one, and I think maybe a bit of a polarizing subject right now. I see a lot of folks talking online, and I think every time I bring it up, I try to, justify my question. So we'll work through it. Tell me about your work-life relationship. I always say relationship, not balance, because I don't think anyone actually has a balance 50-50. Even, it's weird for everybody, right? Are you someone that's more always on? Are you more scheduled and you turn it off when you need to? How does that work for you?
Oh, I'm scheduled and turn it off when I need to.
Yeah?
So
Okay.
I absolutely advocate. Obviously, like, I do have my work email on my phone.
Sure.
But I'll give you, for instance, we use Microsoft Teams for meetings. I still have yet to download that on my phone.
Okay.
When I take PTO, I am not answering emails. I don't do that because I already spend enough time away from my husband and my family. And if I'm on PTO, that clinic better be on fire, or someone better be, in mortal injury if they're contacting me. Like, it needs to be an emergency, because I'm a firm believer that we need to have an appropriate balance of our work and our life and keep them separate. Again, everyone has their own opinion on that. That's just for me. So that's another reason why, for me, I've always really admired my husband and how we have different careers, because when we walk through the door, it's not like you're constantly talking about physical therapy, right? As much as I love my job, it's not all of me. And, who I am as a wife is very different than who I am as a physical therapist.
Sure.
It's different than how I am as a sister and as a daughter, as a friend. And I like keeping that separate, because me being a physical therapist, that's only ever just been for me and for my patients, and I lock that away once I'm home.
Yeah,
and
smart.
I think it's a good thing for me to turn off, because this might come as a shock to the people that know me, I'm very one with my emotions. And so if I were to bring that across the threshold into my house, my husband's going to get the brutality of that. And he doesn't deserve it.
It's not fair. Exactly. Because
So-
he's going to take he's going to get your anger from a bad day, or your frustration, or whatever that emotion is.
Yeah. And that was actually probably one of the toughest challenges when I was first starting to treat. I'm getting better at it now. It's not perfect, but there are days where I'm very mentally and emotionally exhausted from work. Not in a bad way. It was just a very busy day, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I just don't feel very talkative when I get home. So that's something that I need to work on personally, in my own, separate life away from work.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely the type where, once I'm home, like, I think my superiors have caught on that if I'm not answering, it's because I'm not in the office. I do understand that being a clinic director does mean that, your salary 40 hours, but like, read between the lines, right? You're going to have to be on call, if you will, outside of those 40 hours to make sure that everything's running smoothly
Sure.
for yourself, for your patients, and for your coworkers. But for me, I feel like I'm towing the line pretty darn well about keeping that work life from absolutely devouring my personal life.
Yes, because you're right. You're the director. You're going to have to answer the phone call at some point.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you set the standard that that's when it's really important, then that's what they will follow.
Right.
If you allow it to be kind of upward delegation of anything that they are concerned about, it gets a little out of hand very quickly,
Yeah.
I think. So
Yep.
that's a great way to keep that balance.
Yeah, and I'm only in my 30s right now. I still have a lot of years left in my career, at least you hope, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a marathon, so to
Yeah.
speak. So I can't just go out full sprint right now and just exhaust myself and not want to do anything else in my career when I'm in, like, let's say my 40s, a decade
you want to
from
keep
now.
growing and you want to keep building.
I want to keep my, that fire alive in me that has this passion for PT. And I know myself very well. If I were to constantly be on, always working, I'm just going to be drained in the next few years. So sometimes, and again, that's another thing that I have to work on, is being a little bit more professional in the ways that I'm telling, I guess, my superiors that I'm either, like, not answering or can't answer now. And instead of just ghosting them completely
Maybe.
via email.
I get that. Okay.
But that's my rationale behind it. And I do believe that as of right now, I have done a great job of conserving my emotional battery for my patients.
Sure.
And been able to give them good treatment while also conserving my emotional battery for my friends, my family, and my spouse. So
That's a perfect answer. Well said.
Yeah.
Very good. I struggle with that a little bit, but my husband and I both do, so I think we match each other well, which is good. But I think we also both constantly strive to be better at that, kind of turning it off. Because we'll both kind of, today was a rough day, and I get it. Like, there's days where I get home, and same thing. I always just say, my brain is melting. Or, like, I'm drained, because I'm like, I've said so many words. I've talked a lot. I've, given that emotion. Because every human interaction takes some of your battery, right? And so some days that battery's just dead when I get home, and I feel the same thing. I'm like, I can't really do much. I just can't hardly think anymore. I need sleep. But I think it's good to know that limit, and then you can hopefully help to not hit it every day, and have that for your spouse when you get home. And I think that's important.
It is. And he's very respectful of that. That's another absolutely amazing quality of my husband, is he knows when I need my space to recharge. And then he knows when I guess he's been able to gauge my emotions a little bit better, but he's been very respectful of certain days when he can just tell that I'm absolutely drained.
Yeah.
And he doesn't take it personally.
Yeah. She's going to be quiet, and that's going to be okay. And we're going to have dinner, and it's going to be fine.
Yep.
Good. That's fantastic. Okay. So, are you ready for the quick response questions?
I'll try.
Okay, here we go. You've done perfect so far. I don't think you have anything to worry about. So the whole premise, quick response, you get 5 seconds or you get buzzed. You've heard the buzzer. It's not great. If you had to change your name, what would you change it to?
Lisa.
Lisa.
That's my sister's name. The first one that popped in my head.
Okay, I like it. Which would then put you guys having 2 Lisas. But
Absolutely.
listen, Lisa 1, Lisa 2, it's fine. What is your Hogwarts house?
Ravenclaw.
Okay, I love that. I'm excited. These questions are a bit new, so you're only the second person to try these questions, and I'm really nervous that someone's going to go, I have no idea, because that's what my answer would be. But
Really?
I've never watched Harry Potter, and I don't know the answer to this question, so I'm kind of a nerd. I'm kind of a loser there. What has been your favorite age so far?
21.
Okay, I like it. If you could be one Disney character for a day, who would it be?
Oh my goodness. Probably Simba.
Okay, it was close. That's a good one. Okay, I like that. You're boarding an airplane right now. Where is it going?
Arizona.
Why Arizona?
My husband and I love Arizona. We just got done hiking there.
Okay.
There's so many places we want to go to, but we did Sedona, Flagstaff, all the way up in Page, and we're not done yet. We love Arizona so much.
Okay, and you guys are hikers.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm forcing him into hiking. He does love it though.
Same.
He's not
Okay.
just doing it because of me. He actually does.
He
like
does like
hiking
it,
now.
but it started because of you, and now he's created a passion for it too.
Yep.
That's awesome. I just took my husband on a hike over the weekend. Same thing. He does it for me. I still think he's doing it for me still. But he's getting to like it more. And we did just a little 4-mile hike. And it was really fun. It's just such a great, get outside, everybody, right? Like, getting outside and being out, even in the cold, it's okay. It's just good for you. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I agree.
What is your favorite article of clothing that you own?
Probably my flannels. Everyone who knows me knows that I love my flannels.
Okay. That's like your go-to.
It
if we
is,
see you out.
especially when fall weather.
Okay. Breakfast food or dessert?
Breakfast food.
Oh, same. Tropical vacation or mountains?
Mountains.
Okay, I would have guessed. Are you usually early, late, or right on time?
Ooh, between early and right on time.
Okay. You were like 2 minutes early today. I think it was like literally right there. Exactly what you're saying. Do you prefer to give gifts or receive them?
Give gifts.
Got it. What is your least favorite chore to do around the house?
Probably laundry.
Ooh, good one. Ugh. It's just laundry has so many steps.
Yes.
You gotta wash, and then you gotta dry, and then you gotta fold or put away, and then it's just a lot. If you had free tickets to any concert, who would it be for?
I really like A Day to Remember.
I don't know them.
So they were really, really big back when I was in high school.
Okay.
So they're like kind of like, some people would classify them as like emo alternative punk
Okay.
band. But so they had a really good album called Homesick Album back in like 2009. My
Okay.
husband and I love them.
I'm gonna have to check it out. I like this. What is one thing you need to sleep? Fan, weighted blanket.
Heater.
Heater.
My husband hates it because he always runs hot, but a heater is definite for me.
Okay. Do you prefer watching shows week by week or binging all at once?
Binging all at once.
Same. Do you cannonball or toe dip into a cold pool?
I toe tip.
And you probably know all the benefits of like a cold plunge.
I know.
But you can still get in that slowly. There's no need to make it crazy,
Yep.
right? What is your go-to karaoke song?
Ooh. The one with the least amount of words, probably just Tequila, right?
The tequila song? That's all we have to say. Tequila!
Yeah,
I
easy to
love
remember.
this. So not a karaoke here, I can
No.
assume. Okay. Same. I don't think anyone wants that from me. What mythical creature could you believe is real?
Oh my gosh. I would say none, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah?
Yeah,
You
no.
just know.
I'm a realistic person, I would say.
Fair. I just listened to a podcast the other day, and one of the hosts just recently found out that a narwhal was real. She thought it was a mythical creature. It was
Really?
like the water version of a unicorn.
My goodness.
And she didn't realize it was real. It was really funny. What is one lighthearted hill you would die on?
Oh my gosh. I would probably say that I will never give up on my Chicago White Sox team. I'm always just going to be a diehard.
Okay.
People can really rant about it, throw the objective measures in my face, but I'm always going to say they're my team and they're my ride or die for Chicago.
That is the perfect answer.
Yeah.
Because you're right. You're going to get some flack for that, especially in this area. You know,
Yeah.
the Cubs tend to outweigh, but
Yeah.
I've never been to a Cubs game, but I have been to a White Sox game, and I had a wonderful time.
Yeah.
So it says something.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you made it through. No buzzing. Great job. You didn't
Thank
get
you.
buzzed once. Is there anything else you want to mention that we haven't talked about today?
Nothing particular other than, here over at Ivy Rehab, we're absolutely a great crew.
Yeah.
Very personable individuals. We'll get you in within 24, 48 hours. Free injury screens, all that jazz. They can look
love
us
it.
up on the website. But the biggest thing is that I just want individuals to know that when they're looking up physical therapy, the biggest thing is try to match with your physical therapist personality-wise. Whether you're
Sure.
coming to Ivy or you're going somewhere else, if you're not feeling like you can have that personal connection with your PT, either discuss with them, communication's key, or give me a call.
There we go. I love it. And how do people connect with you and Ivy Rehab? Online? Is that the website's the best?
I would say that Googling us, so Ivy Rehab Physical Therapy, it'll pop up with our 3 locations, and
Sure.
then giving the clinic a call. So then it'll have our hours on there, and then it also on the website will have my email address. So I'm very, I do have my work email on my phone,
Good,
as I did
okay,
say.
okay.
So I will definitely see it. So either
Awesome.
call or email.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, Janelle, you're awesome. This is fantastic. Since the day I met you, I thought you were a really bright light. I think Valpo's lucky to have you still, and as is Ivy Rehab. So I'm excited to see how you grow.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys. Stay tuned for another awesome episode next month. Connect with Janelle and Ivy Rehab however you can, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Have an awesome day.